Hey there, my lovelies. How are we doing? Welcome back to my channel, Boomy Reactions. Now, today, guys, it's time for our weekly dose of Wendigoon. So today's video has been a bit of Boomy's choice. So I saw the title of this video and thought it sounded super interesting. I don't know anything about it. Don't recognize the name of this lady. So today's video is the bizarre death of Gloria Ramirez, also known as the Toxic Lady incident. So I've never heard of this incident or this lady's name. So I'm going in blind, guys. I've got no idea what this is, but it's Wedigoon. So I'm sure it's going to be a very thorough investigation of the incident. It's going to look at all sides, all evidence, and I'm sure we're going to get Wedigoon's opinion on the matter. So let's check the video out. It's a little bit of a long one again, so I'll try and talk a little bit less. I'm actually getting worse. I'm talking more as these videos go on. I am also aware, guys, that my hair is getting progressively frizzier as the day goes on. I can't bear the thought of the hair straighteners or the hairdryer going on. It's quite warm in the UK today, so you'll have to put up with my frizzy witch hair. And guys, if you are enjoying these reactions, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much, my lovelies. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account. That link is over here. And if you think I pointed in the wrong direction there, it's over there. If you would like to help support my channel any further, I have a Patreon account. And if you want to check that out at all, that link is in the description, just below there.
On February the 19th, 1994, at 8:15 p.m., a 31-year-old woman named Gloria Ramirez was admitted to the Riverside General Hospital in Riverside, California. Within the hour, her mysterious condition would leave 23 people injured, 5 hospitalized, and herself dead.
Say that again? Her injuries, her incident, her admittance into the hospital has left, I forget how many did we say here? Oh, what is going on? What's happened? Toxic lady. Is it anything to do with like radiation? No.
With no solid explanation to this day. However, it seems that now, through a series of terrifying coincidences and a whole lot of science, we may have an answer to what happened that night in Riverside, California. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about the mysterious death of Gloria Ramirez, also known as the Toxic Lady.
Oh,
every aspect of this case, from the events of that night to the investigation that followed, is bizarre. If you're like me, then you've probably heard this story passed around on either old creepy YouTube videos or mystery internet forums. And while a lot of people have kind of chalked the case up to a supernatural occurrence or just one unexplainable phenomena that will probably never happen again.
Oh, was the crazy kind of theory going around that maybe she was cursed or possessed, and you know, any of the medical staff that had anything to do with her admittance also became unwell or died. Did he say? Poor Gloria, she's only 31 years old. I hate the idea that she's known as the Toxic Lady. I'm just going to refer to her as Gloria. I think that sounds nicer.
The true answer is much more terrifying and depressing. And if I had to suffer through it, then you have to suffer through it with me. Oh, no. So stick around as we talk about the death of the Toxic Lady, Gloria Ramirez. And you're not going to have fun with it. I'm going to have fun with it because I get to talk about it, but you're not going to enjoy it. So get ready to watch me enjoy this. We are going to go ahead and get into it, but as always, thank you for watching. As mentioned, Gloria Ramirez was 31 years old, and 6 weeks prior to the events of February the 19th, she had been diagnosed with cervical cancer. Her prognosis wasn't good, as the cancer was already late stage by the time they discovered it.
Absolute horrendous killer of women. Awful, awful cancer to have.
So 6 weeks later, Gloria calls an ambulance as she's suffering from shortness of breath and heart palpitations. So the ambulance shows up, puts an oxygen mask on her, and the paramedics rush her to the Riverside General Hospital. She arrives to the hospital at 8:15 and seems to be confused as she's unable to answer questions. While she's in this state of delirium, the doctors begin to sedate her in order to get her heart rate under control. And after this doesn't correct her heart rate, they decide to use a defibrillator. Whenever they open up her shirt to apply the chest paddles, they see that her skin is coated in a sort of glossy oil. The people in the emergency room take note of this and mention that it looks too thick to be sweat. However, they just assume that she's coated in some kind of lotion or oil.
She's already had her diagnosis. Is there... maybe Gloria was using some kind of holistic therapy, or, you know, just some kind of herbal remedies that some of them, especially old-fashioned kind of remedies, maybe do a bit more harm than good.
So they use the chest paddles anyway. The second strange occurrence comes when one of the nurses points out that Ramirez has a very strong garlic smell coming from her mouth. Oh? And according to everyone in the room, this is beyond Gloria just ate some garlic before she came to the ER.
Yeah, I've heard of lots of crazy things being done with garlic oil, though, like, you know, rubbing it on the soles of your feet to cure a cold, or just things like that, or to repel mosquitoes is another one. Apparently they don't like garlic. So if you eat a lot of garlic, or, you know, use garlic oil, the theory goes that they're not going to bite you. I haven't tested it, so I couldn't tell you.
This is an overwhelming stench that everyone begins to notice. However, Gloria is actively dying on the table and they don't have a lot of time to ask questions, so they just keep pushing forward. A nurse named Susan Kane draws blood from Gloria's arm. However, as she draws the blood, she noticed that there's a strong ammonia stench coming from the syringe. While inspecting the syringe, Susan passes it off to a medical resident named Julie Gorginski. While inspecting the vial of blood, Julie notices that there seems to be these floating manila-colored crystals in the serum of blood itself.
What?
While the two of them were standing there discussing how Ramirez could have crystals in her blood, suddenly, Susan passes out. The attending physician in the emergency room, Dr. Ochoa, catches Susan as she's falling. He shakes her awake, and whenever she comes to, Susan says that it feels like her face is burning. Julie, the other person who handled the blood vial, says that she's feeling nauseous as well. She goes out into the hallway, sits down at a nurse's station, and whenever a nurse walks up to her and says, "Are you okay?" right before Julie can respond, she passes out as well.
Is this something to do with, like, radiotoxicity, or is that, like I said, I'm suspecting there's been some kind of herbal or, you know, alternative therapy that's been attempted in absolute desperation following her diagnosis, which, you know, she's aware it's a late stage, maybe becoming terminal. So out of desperation, maybe they've used some crazy, kooky, holistic therapies that none of us would, you know, attempt now. I still have no idea what might have caused her blood to crystallize or to form crystals in it. But it smells of ammonia. Is this something, I don't know, like, have they been messing around with mercury or something like that, and it's literally like emitting like poisonous, not poisonous, but do you know what I mean, like radioactivity, and it's causing radioactive sickness?
At the same time, the respiratory therapist Maureen Welch, who's in the emergency room delivering oxygen to Ramirez, passes out as well. So 3 people who were in the ER have fallen unconscious, and everyone else in the room is starting to feel ill. So naturally, the immediate thing they suspect is a gas leak. So they evacuate the entire emergency wing of the hospital. All of the patients are carried out on gurneys and stretchers and just wait in the parking lot. While that's happening, Dr. Ochoa and a few other workers stay in the room with Ramirez, trying to save her life. However, nothing seems to be working, and at 8:50, Gloria Ramirez is pronounced dead, only 35 minutes after she arrived at the hospital. At this point, the people in the emergency room thought that whatever was happening, it was coming from Gloria. So a couple of workers moved her to a quarantine room just to be safe.
That
Right after
sounds
Gloria's body was
sensible.
moved into quarantine, one of the workers who had moved Gloria, a woman named Sally Balderas, began vomiting and said that it felt like her skin was burning.
Ooh.
To make sure that the hospital was safe, a team of people in full hazmat suits investigated the emergency wing. They found that there was no gas, chemical, or biological leak in the hospital.
But not
so whatever was happening
radioactivity.
must have been coming from Gloria. To contain whatever this was, Gloria's body was placed in a sealed aluminum casket. After this, the emergency rooms were able to be used again. However, 23 people reported feeling nauseous or ill, and 5 hospital workers were hospitalized. Among
I know I keep saying it, and I'm probably, it's probably going to come out then completely wrong, but that sounds like very mild. Is it just radioactivity sickness? Or radioactivity poisoning? I think they're doing the right thing if they're suspecting that, if they're putting her body in an aluminium casket. We say aluminium. Is that what they're suspecting at this point? Which they're not doing anything daft. I think they're taking reasonable precautions here.
those were Susan Kane, who spent 10 days in the hospital, and Julie Gorginski, who spent 2 weeks in the hospital. So immediately the question became, what happened to Gloria Ramirez? And it became a national mystery, as you can imagine, as to what caused this bizarre, spontaneous sickness. Well, after 1 week, an autopsy was conducted. The reason they waited a week was so that if she had some kind of biological agent or supervirus inside of her, that it had enough time that it wouldn't be re-released whenever they actually performed the autopsy. They performed the autopsy in full hazmat gear as well, just to be double safe. And the craziest thing that they found in the autopsy is that she was completely clean. Or at least she was clean from any chemical or radioactive elements that would have caused what happened in that emergency room.
Oh, there's my theory completely blown out of the water. I don't think it was a crazy theory. I think it was, could have been. Right. Okay. It is a terrifying idea that these hospital workers that are fighting to do what's best for Gloria here. They're trying to desperately keep her, if not alive, comfortable, and they're becoming really unwell and really poorly just from being near her. That's actually terrifying.
The only things they found in her system were Tylenol, lidocaine, codeine, and Tygan. Tygan is an anti-nausea medication.
Okay.
These are all things that would be standard for a suffering cancer patient to have in their body. Also, that medication of Tygan is important because Tygan breaks down into amines in the bloodstream, which would explain the smell of ammonia on the blood vial.
Right.
It doesn't explain the little crystals floating in the blood, but we'll get to that. In this initial autopsy, they were mainly looking for a cause of death, and it was determined that Gloria died due to heart complications that arose due to kidney failure. It seemed that the cancer, as well as the medication she was on, caused her to get kidney failure, and she was also going through the early stages of liver failure. These things caused a backup of toxicants in her system, which eventually led to heart problems and her eventual death. However, kidney failure doesn't explain why 23 people who were in the building also got sick.
Not at all, but should that blood test have been done pretty promptly, that would have shown renal failure, surely?
So they reseal her body, and then 5 weeks later, they perform another autopsy where this time they collect samples. Also in tandem with this, the Department of Health does an investigation at the hospital. And once again, they can't find anything that they're testing for, so the Department of Health determines that Gloria again died of kidney failure, and everything else that happened in the hospital was mass psychogenic illness.
No.
Or in other words, mass hysteria. The reasoning for this, again, they couldn't find any direct kind of agent in Gloria's system that would have caused all of this. And also, they interviewed 34 people around the hospital to try to get all the information they could about that night. And it seems the people who were the most ill were women and people who didn't eat anything for dinner that day. So people,
with the exception of the latter, because the majority of people that were present all around Gloria that had reported the illness, because they were women, they're more likely to just write this off as mass psychological hysteria. Wow. Wow.
people who had skipped a meal. So the idea being that, oh, well, since it just seems people were a little bit hungry, I guess they got a little bit nauseous or whatever. And
it's not unusual, I imagine, for hospital staff working very long shifts to have gone quite a while since their last meal. I don't think that's unusual. I'm not saying it's entirely sensible. They should, receive breaks, and they should be able to eat, every so many hours. However, I don't think you can explain. You can't explain that. They're hungry. What?
People who got really ill were women. So, women be crazy, I guess.
Don't you say it.
And you may hear that and think the investigators were a couple of guys who were downplaying what these women said they experienced. But both of the investigators were women as well. Ooh. So make of that what you will. Because while several of the men, like Dr. Ochoa, who was in the room the whole time, said that they felt ill, the only ones that passed out and had severe reactions, like feeling like their skin were burning, were female workers. So the Department of Health said everyone in this hospital is crazy and left it at that.
It's that more of a reflection on... Very careful how I word this. So the staff that were in more close proximity to Gloria would maybe have been more in caring roles and nursing roles, preparing her for whatever procedure it is. What I mean is, when we're talking about nursing, the majority of nurses do tend to be female. It's a very female-heavy profession, or at least it definitely would have been in the 90s. I am making an assumption. It might be a wrong one, but does that not factor into it? So the people that have just been more close to Gloria may have been nurses, auxiliary nurses, not so much surgeon, consultant, specialist. Do you know what I mean?
The people at the hospital, as you could imagine, were not happy with this conclusion.
The women have had more
One
exposure.
of the people who strongly disagreed with this conclusion was Julie Korchinski. If you'll remember, she was the second person to pass out on the night Gloria died. She spent 2 weeks in the hospital and developed hepatitis and avascular necrosis in her knees. So the hospital asked other people to take a look at the data, and eventually they reached out to the Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. At Lawrence Livermore, they took the samples that were taken from Gloria's second autopsy, and instead of just running it through to see if they could find any toxicants, they decided to just run it for everything and see what was in her blood and tissues. The only thing they found, aside from some traces of other pain relief medication, was a chemical known as dimethylsulfone. Now, dimethylsulfone, or DMSO2, is a naturally occurring chemical that can be found in trace amounts throughout the body. If you eat a lot of plants or eggs or something that contains sulfur, it is a trace element that is made as a byproduct of your body's digestion process. Okay. However, dimethylsulfone is, for one, very, very sparse in the body, to the degree that most people would never even test for it. And in the body, it naturally decomposes after about 3 days. And two, dimethylsulfone is harmless in any reasonable concentration. As a matter of fact, methylsulfone, which is also known as methylsulfonylmethane, or MSM, is a popular alternative medicine. So trace amounts in the blood wouldn't be enough to kill you. However, what was strange about this amount of methylsulfone in Gloria's system is that it was not a trace amount. From the samples that were taken 6 weeks after Gloria's death, she had 3 times the normal amount of methyl sulfone in her system.
And as we've just established here, it naturally breaks down within 3 days, did we say, of it being present in the body. So has this had a chance to further break down? I mean, does it naturally break down, or does it need, you know, the body functioning to break it down? I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, so this isn't trace amount. So while it wouldn't cause any problems in, normal trace amount, normal levels in the average human body, in bigger quantities, what does this look like?
And while that may not sound like a lot, remember, methyl sulfone degrades after about 3 days.
So it's significantly
So if this was
more.
after 6 weeks, then at the time of death, she would have had dozens, if not 100 times the normal amount in her system.
I don't know. It depends on what, like half-lives and what the rate at which it breaks down, but significantly more, yes.
So Pat Grant, a scientist who was researching this case, decided to do some more digging. And he discovered a link to something known as dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO. Now, dimethyl sulfoxide and dimethyl sulfone are very similar to each other. They're just one oxygen atom apart. And DMSO has a whole history when it comes to medical treatments. Back in the 50s and 60s, DMSO was thought to be a sort of cure-all. People would take it as a pain reliever for sprains or breaks. They would take it for headaches. They would apply it in a sort of ointment if they had any kind of swelling or cramps. Okay. However, in 1965, doctors found that prolonged use of DMSO can cause damage to the lens of your eye. So the FDA began to blacklist it as a direct medication. Now, DMSO is still used in a lot of medication today. It is a much diluted form from what it was back in the 60s, but it's used as a sort of applicator in a lot of topical ointments that you use for like muscle pain or cramps. And you can even get straight up DMSO cream that is, again, diluted from what it was in the 60s, that is used as an alternative medicine for things like muscle pain. It's also used in veterinary medicine to treat horses with some kind of inflammation or swelling.
I think I've seen that earlier one with the red label, and I'm trying to think if it is what I think it is. What is it marketed over here? It's not deep heat. It's like almost like a holistic kind of brand, but you'd probably see it in the chemist, pharmacy. Oh, that's going to annoy me so much. What's it called?
So DMSO was kind of kept as a niche concept in medicine, at least when used by itself, up until the 1980s, when some scientists began to propose that DMSO could be a form of cancer treatment. As a matter of fact, 60 Minutes even ran an episode about it. So you have this chemical, dimethyl sulfoxone, that a lot of people believe might be a kind of cure-all or treatment for cancer that is used in some part in, standard pharmaceuticals when it comes to like topical creams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't enough for some people. So there is another way to get DMSO. DMSO, whenever it is highly, highly concentrated, is a very powerful degreaser. You can buy it in a gel form at hardware stores, and it gets used as everything from oven cleaner to paint remover. It is way more concentrated than even the pills that people were taking back in the 60s of DMSO.
Please don't tell me that they've used this concentrated, at this point chemical, like oven cleaner. Please say that's not what Gloria used.
Much less the way it's used in medicine today. But it was this little trick of the trade back in the 80s that if you were like a college athlete and you got sore muscles a lot, you could go to the hardware store, get some DMSO gel, rub it on the muscle, and then the next day, the pain would be gone.
And degreased and squeaky clean. Unless it's a different chemical that's used in generic oven cleaners, here in the UK anyway. Any oven cleaner that you buy is not highly toxic, it's highly corrosive. You don't want to get that on your skin, even in small amounts. Oh,
I cannot
Please say it's
properly
different.
state the amount of chemicals you're shoving into your body when you are doing that. And for the sake of this YouTube video, let me be clear, do not rub oven cleaner on your body.
Don't do
so
that
Pat Grant's researching
ever.
all of this, and he finds that with the
It will
DMSO
hurt a
gel,
lot.
it has the strong smell of garlic, which if you'll remember, is the same thing the people in the emergency room reported came out of the mouth of Gloria Ramirez.
Oh my good Lord. I could see where this is going. It's going to a dark place. I wish our oven cleaners smell of garlic. They are a lot more chemical smelling, toxic, not very pleasant. The smell, it just fumigates the house. It's horrible. So obviously this is a different oven cleaner. I still imagine anything marketed as an oven cleaner is going to strip your skin. Oh, what goosebumps! Like, I'm cringing in anticipation for what he's gonna say.
And that in its gel form, it looks like a bright, oily lotion, which if you'll remember, is the same thing they saw on
On the
Gloria's chest whenever they went to give her the defib. So it seems that Gloria maybe wanted to try DMSO as a home remedy for cancer, which again, a lot of people at the time believed that it might be, and that would explain the oil on her body and the smell coming from her mouth. However, it wasn't dimethyl sulfoxide that was found in her body, it was dimethyl sulfone. So that would mean the DMSO in her body needed to be spiked with a lot of oxygen to become dimethyl sulfone.
But has this amount of DMSO, has this had a reaction in her body or with something else which is converted into this?
So Pat Grant thought about this and remembered the detail that she was given an oxygen mask on the way to and while she was in the hospital. And it's not hard for dimethyl sulfoxide to become sulfone if introduced to an area with a lot of concentrated oxygen, like an oxygen mask. And the other interesting detail about DMSO2 is that at room temperature, it forms into small crystals. So Grant did an experiment. He took a blood sample, mixed it with DMSO2, and sure enough, small manila crystals began to form in the serum.
I don't want to ask, but my curiosity is getting the better of me. How painful would that have been to have those crystals circulating through in your blood?
Meaning that could be the explanation to the crystals that Julie saw in the blood that night. Because while it was in Gloria's body, it was too hot to form these solid crystals, but as soon as it was removed and brought into the temperature of the emergency room, it cooled down and began to form the solid shards. Now, there's one big hiccup in all of this. Like, sure, we've got to the point that DMSO could have been what she put on, and that was converted into DMSO2, which would explain the smell of garlic, the oil on her body, and the crystals in the blood. And remember, the smell of the blood was explained with the nausea medication that we already established she was on. So it seems that all of that's taken care of. However, neither dimethyl sulfoxide or dimethyl sulfone is toxic, and especially not toxic enough that it could get into the air and make a bunch of people sick. So
in that form, if it's in its gaseous form, is it harmful? This makes me feel a bit queasy. Fortunately though, so the crystals weren't in her blood. It crystallized as the temperature cooled down once the sample of the blood was outside of her body. Okay.
So Grant continued to do research, and he found that on the same tree of sulfoxide and sulfone, there is another chemical known as dimethyl sulfate, or DMSO4. Dimethyl sulfate is a nerve gas, or more specifically, it was tested in the 70s and 80s as an agent for nerve gas. As a matter of fact, dimethyl sulfate dates all the way back to World War I, when both France and Germany tested it for use in chemical warfare. As a matter of fact, in 1987, it was determined that dimethyl sulfate is so dangerous, it only takes 10 minutes of exposure to half a gram of it per cubic meter to kill someone. And of the 20 symptoms that were reported in the hospital that night, 19 of them are directly linked to symptoms of DMSO4. The only one that wasn't linked is vomiting. That was never seen in dimethyl sulfate experiments. But if someone's undergoing, face burning and muscle spasms and paralysis and all those other things, they might throw up. So you may be...
when now that you've compiled all those symptoms into one, nerve gas, the muscle spasms and the paralysis, yes.
Thinking, all right, that makes sense. The DMSO2 became DMSO4, and that's what got everyone sick. However, there is a hiccup in that theory. While it's easy to make DMSO2 because all you do is just add another oxygen atom to the sulfur, you can't just add 2 more oxygen to make DMSO4. Because for DMSO4 to happen, the sulfur has to break both of its methyl bonds, which are pretty strong. My organic chemistry class is finally coming back to help me.
Wait!
The sulfur has to break 2 methyl bonds, which are both strong, and then connect to 2 additional oxygen atoms, and then those oxygen atoms connect to the methyl groups. Meaning that whereas for the first step, it's just, add some oxygen and there you go. For the second one, you need a lot of energy to break everything down to its base components and then reform as dimethyl sulfate. And dimethyl sulfate itself is a pretty strong chemical. It doesn't vaporize until 370 degrees Fahrenheit. So in order to break down all of these elements and put them back together as DMSO4, it would take a lot of energy.
Did they use the defibrillator? I can't remember if they actually used it. I know there's a mention of the possibility because to stabilize their heart rate, or maybe heart rate was dropping. Would that have been the energy?
But do you know what's got a lot of energy?
A defibrillator.
A defibrillator. Grant proposed a theory that perhaps the DMSO2 in her body, which formed from the DMSO and oxygen, was electrocuted by the defib that gave it enough energy to either break apart the bonds it had or to restructure itself with the other chemicals and elements that were present in Gloria's body. Now, this has never been recreated in a lab because we can't, hook people up to a bunch of chemicals and then electrocute them to see what happens.
Yeah, and even if you did individual little experiments outside of a human body, obviously, like supplying these molecules and whatever, DSMO to high voltage electricity, it's not the same kind of replica, is it? There's confounding variables and there's lots of different things going on. I get it.
Although that'd be kind of cool. But
No.
this has never been recreated in a lab, so it's all theoretical if this could even happen. But some scientists agree that it is possible that if you put this combination of DMSO2 along with the other trace elements that would be found in her body and then electrocute that it could theoretically form dimethyl sulfate, which would turn the emergency room at Riverside General Hospital into a gas chamber. Now, a very diluted one, mind you. There wouldn't be enough in her system that it would be immediately lethal to anyone standing around, but definitely enough to make them sick. It's
Yeah, so while they weren't, strictly harmful levels of any of the health care workers that got close enough to Gloria, it's enough to cause symptoms.
Also, the only thing that could explain everything that happened, from the weird smells to everyone getting ill to the crystals in her blood, there's nothing else that makes sense, at least not any one answer. Because the series of events that had to happen is absurd. Like, to make sure we're all on the same page, Gloria Ramirez had cervical cancer, so she decided to get an oven cleaner or a degreaser in order to try to remedy that cancer, so she takes that. She then has heart palpitations likely brought on by the kidney failure, which, mind you, the reason that level of DMSO might have been lethal or in concentration enough to cause the effect it eventually did is because she wasn't able to urinate it out of her system because of the kidney failure, which might have been exasperated and probably was because of the DMSO. So because she takes this alternative medicine and also has kidney failure, it creates a combination that whenever she gets into the ambulance, the oxygen that's pumped into her lungs combines with that to make DMSO2. Again, fine for now, but then that compilation of DMSO2 that's staying in her system gets electrocuted with chest paddles, which in that moment
introduces
turns Gloria into a toxic gas factory.
Oh, this is horrible. This is just the most unlucky, tragic storm, this perfect storm of all of these different scenarios and everything just happening all at once and then accumulating and resulting in this. It's absolutely horrible. Could you also maybe theorize that, given that Gloria had such late stage cervical cancer, the likelihood that it metastasized, I can't say that word properly, into secondary cancers is fairly likely. So maybe that could have also been a contributor to the renal failure, or at least her kidneys not functioning efficiently,
One of the most bizarre one-off moments in medical history that almost killed a lot of people and perhaps definitely killed Ramirez. Which, if that's true, then no wonder they were unable to revive her, because the inside of her body was producing a nerve agent. And yes, again, while without another chemical being added, it takes 370 degrees to get this stuff to vaporize, a small amount of it will vaporize naturally. Perhaps small enough to just make the people in the building sick instead of killing everyone. Now, it should also be mentioned that the family of Gloria has vehemently denied that she ever used DMSO. And I hate to go against, what a family says about a lost loved one, but I don't see any other way this case could be explained.
I don't think while it sounds extreme to us listening to this story, I think how desperate that diagnosis would have made you. She is a young woman. She's 31 years old. I don't think it was mentioned if she had any children or if she was married, if she had any intentions of having children. That is, to die at that age from anything, for any reason, it's tragic. But I can empathize with how desperate that would make you. And, if you were a bit skeptical of the healthcare system, maybe as well, and you placed a great faith in holistic therapy, and you had heard that this chemical is a cure-all, it's a cancer remedy, and it's a very effective one, maybe you've just thought, well, we'll go for the most concentrated source of DMSO that I can find. I don't think that's, yes, looking at it from the outside, it seems extreme, and it is tempting to say, like, oh, what a silly thing to do, but you would be absolutely desperate. You would try anything.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories about the case too, which are completely unfounded, but I have to mention them because it's me. A few of the weird details are the syringe that contained the actual crystals of supposedly DMSO2 disappeared. No one was able to find that syringe after the incident. And while that isn't unheard of, a lot of people used it as fuel for the fire. Another detail is the coroner, who was originally investigating all of this, took his own life about a month after Gloria died, so people think he was silenced. And the other—
No, I don't think they're related. The syringe going missing in any healthcare establishment across the globe, if you had a syringe of any contaminant lying around your surgery for a prolonged amount of time, that's gross. You dispose of these sharps, contaminated, sharps, needles, you you dispose of them. You're told to dispose of them as quickly as possible because you do not want them lying around, especially if they're associated with a patient that, you know, they don't know what it is that is contaminating other healthcare workers, but there's something about this body and it's dangerous to the people attempting to treat them. So I can wholeheartedly understand them getting rid of those syringes as quickly as possible. I don't think there's a conspiracy theory, not with that anyway.
Another weird detail is Gloria's third autopsy. So Gloria had the first autopsy that was a week after her death. She had the second one where they took samples 6 weeks after her death. And then the family, who didn't believe the hospital or the laboratory saying it was the whole DMSO thing, had a coroner do a private autopsy 10 weeks after Gloria's death. During that third autopsy, Gloria's heart was missing and a lot of her internal organs had fecal matter on them. And a lot of people point to these things about the coroner, about the autopsy being weird and the syringe missing to say there was some kind of cover-up. There was a theory that got passed around the News Times LA that the hospital was smuggling methamphetamine and that what actually happened is someone accidentally hooked up one of these smuggling IV bags full of meth to Gloria, and everyone in the hospital got hit with a vaporized meth. For one, that would have been found in the autopsy report.
Yeah.
And no. Like, trust me, if there's anyone out here who wants to point fingers at an establishment and say that there's some grand conspiracy that people are unaliving themselves over, it's me. But we have to have some kind of merit to work with, guys, or else we're just going to get made fun of. I mean, more than we already are. The syringe was either thrown away or lost in the confusion of the hospital being evacuated, and
it was disposed of hopefully in a sharps bin, because they are a contaminant. They carry, you don't know what. You are taught to get rid of these needles as quickly as possible. They don't hang around, especially if, you know, it's infecting other people or they're becoming poorly from just being around, you know, the body.
Then cleared. The whole coroner death doesn't look like it was related at all to Gloria.
No.
That guy had a lot on his plate with a lot of different investigations that he was doing.
And he also would have been the coroner for an awful lot more cases and patients, and they're not all related.
And if you'll remember, whenever they did the second autopsy with Gloria, they took a lot of samples. And since her cause of death was heart failure, it's reasonable that they would have removed her heart for future study.
Yeah,
and also, the third coroner mentioned that a lot of her internals were too badly decomposed to really analyze anything. So it's not out of the question, if some organs were removed and others cut, that some fecal matter could have seeped out into the rest of the body.
Especially, I don't know. Could you say that it's anything to do with the kidney failure? Any of these trace fecal, whatever you call it, samples? You know, I don't pretend to know exactly what the bodily functions are when you pass away, but if there's any contents that's in there, they've got to come out. I don't want to think about that anymore.
Again, Gloria's family maintains that she never used DMSO, and Gloria's sister has gone on record saying that it is the hospital's fault for Gloria's death and the poor sanitary conditions at that hospital. Although, in following investigations, this was never supported. And while it can never be proved with 100% efficiency because the samples are too old to be analyzed now, and we didn't have any testimony or reports then that were looking for something like DMSO, it seems to me that this is the most likely option, as outlandish as it is. And with this case, I noticed a lot of people who talk about it well, there's two approaches to it. There's the approach that I grew up with on YouTube that a lot of you are probably familiar with, where this is treated like a supernatural occurrence, like the mysterious toxic lady who went into a hospital and then everyone around her got sick, and maybe she was possessed or like had some kind of demon plague or whatever.
I knew that was gonna be, you know, tossed around somewhere. No, that's purely scientific. Or, you know, I thought they were going to say, oh, is there a curse? It's a bit daft.
And the other approach I've seen is with people who are following the whole DMSO theory, that she effectively used a hardware store paint remover in order to treat her cancer, and that is what kicked off the series of events that led to the mysterious Toxic Lady death. A lot of those people have a tone of, oh, imagine being so stupid that you end up nearly killing a whole hospital room full of people. Or they at least kind of have this tone that Gloria was dumb enough to use DMSO to try to treat her cancer. And I think the thing to keep in mind with all of that is that Gloria Ramirez was diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks before she was dead. Yeah. She was a wife and a mother of 2 who, it seems from the records, never began chemotherapy. More than likely because her, again, prognosis wasn't good and her chances on chemo weren't good. Or maybe she just couldn't afford it, or the insurance wouldn't back it because there wasn't a point. Who knows?
It's a fast spreading cancer, and it's a very undetectable one until you start to become symptomatic, and then it's found, and then at that point, because you've got the symptoms, it's because it's so widespread or so late stage. So yes, okay, Gloria had 2 children and a husband. If not for yourself, you would desperately be trying to cure yourself of this horrible disease, which you've only just been told you have. And you'd be so desperate just to stay around for your kids at the absolute minimum. That would be your driving force. I think this has been maybe something attempted out of absolute desperation by a young mother who's just desperately trying to stay around for herself and for her kids, for her family. I don't know. I can't believe anyone making comments about that. That's heartless.
But she was a mother who was about to die, and it seemed that normal medicine wasn't going to do anything. No. So of course she's going to try something weird or out of the box. Yep. And as far as the idea that she's somehow responsible, or I should say willingly responsible for what happened in the hospital room, it is still debated in laboratories to this day if that series of events was even possible. There is no way she could have known at the time that putting that on her skin would cause a series of events that gets a hospital room full of people sick. How would you know that? Just like how whenever the doctor hit her with the defib,
how would you know?
There was no way for him to know that he was exciting elements to cause a chain reaction that converted an alternative medicine into a weaponized gas. The story of Gloria Ramirez is a tragedy.
It is. Yeah.
And it's incredibly fascinating that something like that can occur in the world that we seemingly know everything about. And it's cases like this that opened up our mind and understanding of the world around us, and hopefully lead to new discoveries in the future. Off of this case alone, there's still people experimenting what DMSO can do to try to better understand ways that we can accidentally form dangerous chemicals in healthcare or industrial settings. And also still experiments of DMSO and its use as a treatment for diseases or pain, that the Gloria Ramirez case is used as an important footnote. So hopefully, in spite of being a tragedy of the past, the story of the Toxic Lady can reshape our understanding of the future. And I, of course, also just wanted to talk to you guys about the crazy series of events that led a normal heart palpitation into a nerve gas, because that's insane. I have to talk about that. And hopefully you enjoyed hearing it at least half as much as I enjoyed talking about it, and that's really cool. And I'm glad you're here, and I just want to say thank you for watching. Like I said earlier, this is a case that I remember seeing on YouTube forever, like listening to old creepypasta channels talk about the mysterious woman who
I've never heard it.
Got an entire hospital sick. Was it a demon? Was it a ghost? Who knows? And then I was thinking about that case because I remember it being called the Toxic Lady. I was like, oh, I should make a video on that. And I searched it up and came across all of this, and I'm like, wow, that's depressing. I still have to talk about it because that's insane that all of that happened, but it's super depressing. So now you get to be depressed too. Congratulations. But yeah, I had to talk about this. It's wild. But yeah, the Toxic Lady is a story that, but I wouldn't say it's ruined, because I never, as a kid, I was never like, oh, maybe it was a demon or whatever. Like, I always knew it was some kind of, freak, either virus
Medical
or infection
tragedy.
or what have you. But it's more terrifying in a way, because it went from just being like, oh, maybe she had this one disease, into like, oh, she just put on a thing that you can buy at the store. And over just like everything that happened, it created a nerve gas. That's cool. But not cool in an actual cool way. Cool like I dread for my safety. But that's how it goes on this channel. But yeah, I'm rambling. I think it's really neat. Hopefully you thought it was really neat. And yeah, I'm very tired. As I am normally when I record these. I'm going for a few hours. So I'm going to get this edited and get it up so that you all can see it. But again, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the videos lately. I had a slow start in January getting back in the groove of YouTube. But now we're back at it. Hopefully you guys have liked what I've been doing lately, and I'm going to keep at it. So with that, that's really all I have to say. Time to start editing. So that you all can enjoy it. Hey, you guys make it work because you're the best. But anyway, with that, that should be all for now. But I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye. I think enjoyed might be a strange choice of words. It's been very interesting. I am still reeling from the fact that, like Wedigoon said here, the simple application of some holistic alternative therapy can have this chain events and cause something so freak and so crazy. There's no stupidity about it as well, by the way. It was mentioned earlier that there was, an hour-long television broadcast about how, is it DMSO? How it is effective in killing cancer. So they could have said the beginning of end and the end of that, broadcast. We are not suggesting that you go and do this by all means. Don't ever do this. I don't think it's stupid. I think these are the actions of a desperate lady, just that's lost faith in the healthcare system. If they're not prepared to do chemotherapy, rightly or wrongly, because it's so late on. Oh, it's horrible. It's awful. I really do empathize. That's a horrible position to be in. And can you imagine just being diagnosed with late stage cancer? You're told it's terminal. Oh, there's no treatment for it, by the way. Bye. I can't even imagine. My heart goes out to her family. That was awful. The series of events that led up to this happening is absolutely jaw-dropping. You just can't believe that would happen. It's still a theory, still speculation. But again, it's a woman. It's a mum. This is a partner, a wife who was just desperately trying to live for their family. Oh, it's so sad. Guys, I was going to say enjoy it again. I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. I can't word it any other way. There's no enjoyment here, but it's very interesting. Take care of yourselves, my lovelies, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.